Welcome to the Tax Roundtable.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tax Roundtable with Lee Wilson, managing attorney at the Wilson firm. Lee's board certified in tax law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization and helps individuals and businesses navigate tax controversies, tax planning, and other complex tax matters. I'm Sean O'Connor, and today Lee and I are talking about offshore accounts, FBARs, and the international reporting requirements that many taxpayers don't realize may apply to them. Hi, Lee. Good to see you.
Hey, Sean. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, this is a topic I haven't gotten into before, offshore accounts. Of course, I've heard of them. What counts as an offshore account? And, if you've got one, who has to meet these reporting requirements?
Yeah, good question. So what counts, first and foremost, is essentially if you are a U.S. taxpayer, and that means you're a U.S. citizen, you might hold a green card or have other U.S. tax status, right? You may be here on a work visa of some sort, et cetera, and you have $10,000 or more in a foreign or a offshore or foreign bank account, i.e. foreign being not non-U.S. Yep. Then you have a reporting requirement. You have to file an FBAR. So that's $10,000 in U.S. dollar equivalents for at any point during the year. So if cumulatively your foreign accounts total up to that or more in any year, you have the obligation to file an FBAR.
Okay.
And an FBAR is a report filed electronically with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and the FBAR acronym means Foreign Bank Account Report. So. Yeah, that's who has the obligation. So it applies actually to a lot of people.
Got it. Yeah. That makes sense. But it sounds like you hear offshore account and I think international intrigue and such.
Right.
But yeah, like you said, like you could just simply have a bank account in Spain, and or wherever your vacation home might be.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, no big deal. And is it, am I filing that just any time during the year that suddenly not suddenly, but like, oh, now my account is at 10K or higher? Or is that is it an April 15th type filing?
Yeah, it's the latter. It's due the same day your tax return is due. So if you file an extension for that, the FBAR is due when your tax return is due. But importantly, it's filed separate from the tax return. It is filed with a different agency that I mentioned. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Good point. What have you found? What are the situations where someone, they may have an offshore account, but they don't realize that they've got an obligation to report? What are some of those scenarios?
Oh, so most typically what we see, and here in the Houston area, we're in the Woodlands, just north of Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas, and the surrounding area, like the Woodlands, is filled with individuals who have come here from other countries, right, to work in our oil and gas,
right,
medical, all sorts of different industries, right? Very international city. So we have a lot of people here. With that requirement. So what we commonly see is we see people that come into our office who, through talking to a friend or a relative or just they stumbled on something, over something online, figured out, wait, hold on a second. We came over here 6 years ago and from the UK or from wherever, and Spain, we've had that.
Sure.
And I have more than that. I keep that account. I've had it for years since I was, young, and I keep it because I go visit family, and I want to have, a bank account over there, obviously. So that's the most common scenario that you have is people that came here and just didn't realize the breadth of the U.S. tax reporting system and what they had kind of gotten themselves into. So that's the most common scenario.
And like you said, it's separate agency, so it's not like I'm going to owe any money, so to speak. They're just tracking to make sure that everything's on the up and up in that context.
Well, that's the other part, right? So if you are a U.S. taxpayer, and let's say you have a foreign bank account, and let's just pick a number. Let's say you had $20,000 in it, right? So it wasn't a ton of money, but it was enough that you're clearly over the threshold. And let's say it earns simple interest, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the moment you have U.S. tax status, you have to report that income, even though that income is, income that you probably already reported in that other country. And so the U.S. is a worldwide reporting jurisdiction, so they could have income reporting requirements too.
Okay.
Which makes this, and whether there was unreported income or not, can change how we deal with the issue.
Ah, right. And so speaking of that, like what can happen if someone doesn't file an FBAR or they miss another international reporting requirement?
Sure. So first and foremost, the FBAR. So if you don't file the FBAR when you're required to, right, and you were picked up for an audit and the IRS discovers that you didn't, because they can pick you up for an audit for anything and then in the process figure out you also didn't file FBARs, the penalties can be substantial. And so I'll give you what they are. If the IRS deems your noncompliance to be willful, i.e. you knew about the obligation and you didn't do it, and they determine that from the circumstances, then you're going to pay a penalty that's the greater of 50% of the value of the account, and that applies to every year, or right now it's $165,000. So either the greater of $165,000
or $5,000
or 50%. No, 50% of the value. So of the highest value. So
I mean,
$20,000 account scenario,
$10,000.
you could pay. Go ahead.
I was going to say,
no, that's lesser.
Yeah, right. The greater amount.
165.
Yeah. But I was thinking,
so
in my head,
multiple of what you actually had in the account.
Yeah. In my head, I was like, okay, a minimum reporting requirement is $10,000. So no matter what, you're going to owe at least $5,000. That way,
Well, yeah, you would owe at least $5,000, but like I said, it's so penal in nature that it's huge. Yeah. Oh, the penalties can be way more than was ever in the accounts if they deem it willful. So
sure. Oh yeah.
There are also non-willful penalties that are less. But obviously, if you catch someone who's in an audit scenario, meaning that the IRS caught it before they realized they had the requirement and then they didn't fix it, that's where you're having to play defense and really try to argue for non-willful penalties, so you're not getting hit with what I just said.
Wow.
Right, those astronomical numbers.
Yeah. Okay. So now, if someone realizes they should have reported an offshore account but didn't, what options do they have to get back into compliance? What do they do?
Yeah, right. And we get, as I mentioned, because there's a ton of people with this issue, a ton of people walk into this office with this issue. And what we hope for is that they've realized it before the IRS has, and then we have options. There's a bunch of different options, but most notably the ones that are most common are going to be either the voluntary disclosure program, which allows them to essentially, it's somewhat of an amnesty program where they go in, they report, the unreported income, and they pay a lower penalty. There's other procedures called, like, for example, the Streamlined procedures that allow individuals to pay an even lesser penalty if they have this issue. And it all depends on the facts and circumstances. And there's a couple other programs too, but I don't want to take up all your time going through it. What I want to say is that when they come to us before the IRS has found out, we have a lot of options, and they're still gonna, they're still gonna take a little bit of a financial hit in order to take advantage of those options, but it's way, way better than the alternative.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, like you said, given where you are in the Houston area and the international community there, it's a common issue for you. Do you have an example? Another, a story where someone did come into the office, they've got an offshore reporting issue, and how you helped, in a particular situation, guided them through the process? I know there's probably many stories, but one that you think is particularly applicable?
Man, it's really hard. We've had so many over the years. It's hard to pick just one. I'm trying to think of a recent one. Maybe we had a couple that came over here and they had been here for about 14 years. Then come over from the United Kingdom, and came into our office. They were talking to a relative and realized this, and they had on top of the FBAR, they had other reporting requirements that are schedules attached to a tax return that are just even more penalties. Ooh. And what we were able to do with that, right, was we looked at the issue, and what we recommended was that they go through these streamlined procedures that I mentioned before. And so, when they do that, they're going to report the unpaid. They're going to report the unreported income from those accounts. They're going to pay some tax on it, a little interest. but they're going to have essentially like a 5% penalty, right, that they're going to pay, which no one enjoys because, you know, they didn't realize they ever had this obligation. But you know, they were these people in particular were relieved, and a lot of it comes from, you know, what they had, you know, when they found out, they went online, they looked around, all these worst case scenarios popped up, and they were terrified when they came in here. But you know, when they sat down, we kind of talked them through it. We talked through the facts, and we recommended this direction that we thought would be best for them. And you know, what they came in with after being scared to death, and the numbers that they thought, you know, they were going to have to come up with, were drastically different than what we advised them to do. And so we went forward with that track and resolved the case, and it was pretty minimal relative to, you know, what they expected. So they were extremely happy, and you know, it always feels good to I guess, you know, to give a client good news in this business, because a lot of times they walk in and they, you know, you're having to explain to them where they misstep and what the potential damage can be. You know, here we had one who came in with the worst case scenario already in their head, and we were able to, you know, recognize there was a different a way to go about this, and we thought we could save them a substantial amount of money relative to what they were thinking, and we did.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, they'd already worked themselves into a frenzy about it. Again, people, if you're listening, stay away from the internet beyond just some visiting the IRS website.
That's right.
You know, as we wrap up here, Lee, what's one, or, you know, maybe two, who knows, misconception that you found people have about offshore accounts or FBAR reporting that, you know, you wish more people understood? Because obviously this isn't out in the general conversation typically.
Right. Well, so I guess what I would say is what I think would be beneficial for, you know, more and more people to understand. Obviously, I guess it would probably hurt, you know, our business if more people understood it, because they wouldn't, you know, they would have already done it correctly. So, you know, pointing out the obvious there. But no, what I would say from people's perspective, what I hope they understand more is just generally, you know, when you come to the United States is a worldwide reporting jurisdiction. So, you know, what I would stress people learn, you know, if they're coming here, if I could talk to anyone before they did, is say, listen, you need to, you know, go hire a reputable CPA or come talk to us, and we can kind of explain what you're going to need to do to go forward, so you can avoid all of this. And in particular, you know, that would be me explaining what I wish they understood, which is, this is a worldwide jurisdiction. You know, unlike where you came from, most likely, you've got to report everything you make in the world, right? You'll get credit for any taxes you pay overseas, but you need to report it here, and you need to make sure that you're filing all the requisite forms, because it doesn't just stop at the FBARs. In a lot of cases, there's other forms that we can get into, you know, another time, that also, and sometimes they're duplicative of what's already on the FBAR, but it's the penalties for not filing those forms are egregious as well. And the worst part about those is they don't, you know, the statute of limitations never starts on that return. So that return, if it doesn't include that simple form, can be audited forever. And so it's just, you know, I would say anyone who's coming here, you know, coming to the United States, if I could tell them to go sit down with a tax advisor, you know, and learn really how different the rules are here, that would be the biggest thing I could stress, and I wish more people understood, in order to keep themselves out of trouble, and, you know, not having to come in here and get it all fixed.
Yeah, that's great. That is great. I've traveled around the world, but I've never lived in another country, and I don't really think about other countries' IRSs, so to speak.
Right.
And you know, ours is particularly long-armed, like you said, like global jurisdiction. There's no getting away from the IRS. But that isn't, like, especially in Houston, right? People are like, okay, we're moving to the U.S. It's like you're dealing with your housing, you're dealing with your schools, you're dealing with your job, like, you know, work permits and all of that sort of thing. The tax component is probably wouldn't be on my list. And so that's super good advice to be like, okay,
Yeah.
what do I need to account for given my personal business financial situation?
Right. No, yeah, and totally. I totally don't blame them, you know, that it's not at the top of their list. There's more important things to consider, you know. Yeah, that, unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. So that's definitely what I would say is, I think they, you know, if it's not on their list, I would hope more people would add it, just so they can avoid some of the pitfalls that we've talked about today.
No, I love it. I love it. Lee, we're up against time, but that was a great snapshot on FBAR and pointing at some bigger issues that I know we'll talk about in future episodes. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to connecting on a future episode.
Likewise. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
You bet. That's it for this episode of the Tax Roundtable. If you found this episode helpful and you'd like to learn more about offshore accounts, FBARs, or other tax issues, visit thewilsonfirmplc.com. As always, we appreciate you listening. Don't forget, leave us a thumbs up, maybe a review, subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. Maybe share a link to the episode with someone in your world who you know might be interested in this situation. I'm Sean O'Connor. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.